Hello and welcome to my first attempt to record some halachic Q&A for everyone. We've been asked a whole bunch of questions about cosmetic use on Shabbat, and my objective today is just to answer some of the questions that have come through and that we have on the list here, and then hopefully if there are any follow-up questions, we'll be able to answer those as well. So the general principle in order to understand the concept of what is allowed and not allowed on Shabbat with respect to cosmetics is that coloring of the face or body is certainly not allowed, but coloring means that it has to stick to or adhere to the body. So anything that's oil-based or liquid that creates a coloring on the body is going to be a problem. That's why things like lipstick, mascara, and other liquids that are applied to create color, nail polish, and so on, are all not going to be allowed on Shabbat. Now, when it comes to powders, even if they create a color, we rely on the lenient view that powders are not considered real color because they don't stick for long periods of time to the body or to the skin. So therefore, powders, even if they leave some kind of a coloring, are permitted. Now, the question, in addition, that I was asked, I have some of the details here. So obviously, eyeliner wouldn't be okay. Obviously, blush and so on, lip coloring, eyeshadow, and so on is going to be an issue if these items contain any kind of liquid. Anything which is purely powder, as we said, would be okay. Now, another question that was asked was, what about hair products, hairspray, gel, mousse, spraying the hair with water on Shabbat, brushing hair on Shabbat? So just as a general approach here. So anything that you put on your body, such as a gel or mousse or anything like that, the issue is going to be if it's something which is liquidy, it doesn't create color, so there's no issue of coloring. But the question is going to be, are you taking something which is considered solid and spreading it out on your body? So in the case of gel, which is thick and it has to be spread out onto the hair, that would be a problem. Mousse, which is more like has the consistency of a cream, like of a shaving cream type of consistency, would be okay. But anything which is of a more Vaseline type consistency, which is thick and has to be spread out over the hair to create a kind of a flat surface, like the way that you would spread peanut butter on a piece of bread, that would not be allowed on Shabbat because of what's called mimareach, which is spreading something out over a surface. So anything which is liquidy and doesn't create color in the hair is going to be okay. Wetting the hair is perfectly okay. Hairspray is perfectly okay. Brushing hair, here it's a little complicated. If you're brushing with a very, very soft bristle brush, it's okay because there's no concern of hair necessarily being pulled out. And even if it is pulled out, it's not a problem because it wasn't intentional. However, if you use a type of brush that inevitably pulls out hair on Shabbat, then you have the problem of pulling out hair on Shabbat intentionally, since you knew that what you were doing inevitably would cause the hair to be pulled out, and it's not allowed. So using a very soft bristle brush would be okay, but using any kind of an item that is harsher, that will pull out hair inevitably, is not allowed. Now, deodorant was asked about. Now, deodorant, which is a spray, is totally fine. Deodorant that's a stick deodorant, somebody asked what is the problem with that, or what's the problem with perfume being put on the clothing. So these are two different issues. Putting deodorant on the body that is liquid, as I said, is no problem. Putting on stick deodorant is a problem, like we mentioned before, of mimareach, which is taking a solid thing, it's a stick, and spreading it out over the body as a layer over the body. That's the problem with the stick deodorants on Shabbat. Putting perfume on the body is fine because it's a liquid. However, perfuming clothing is considered improving an item, improving an object, and therefore it's not allowed on Shabbat. Improving your own scent is allowed on Shabbat. Putting it on your own skin is permitted on Shabbat. So any kind of perfume or cologne is allowed on our body, but not on our clothing. Now, when it comes to lipstick, lipstick is the issue of both of these issues. It has a memoreach issue. It's a spreading out of something which is a solid onto something which is a flat surface, which is the spreading out of the solid of the lipstick onto the lips. And same thing with chapstick is equally problematic. In the case of lipstick, you have also the issue of coloring, which is a long-lasting coloring, so that is a problem as well. Now, removing makeup on Shabbat is totally fine. One can use water, one can use a wipe. It really doesn't matter what you use to remove the makeup on Shabbat. Curling lashes on Shabbat, if it's something which is done simply with a doesn't require any kind of a cream or anything thick to be done. I don't really curl my lashes, so I don't know what it entails. But if it's done simply with the tool, and the tool is not designed in such a way that every time you use it, or almost every time you use it, it's going to pull out lashes, meaning that it's designed in such a way that occasionally you might, but it's not inevitable, then it's okay, because it's not considered intentional if lashes are pulled out. But that's assuming that there's no other substance involved. If there's any kind of a thick gel or any kind of thing which is not liquidy that has to be used to curl the eyelashes, then it would be a problem, just like spreading out any other kind of Vaseline or thick substance is a problem on Shabbat. The question came, liquid foundation or concealer. Again, if these are creating any kind of a coloring on the face and they're made of a liquid, or they have a liquid or oil, water base or anything like that so that they adhere to the skin, it's not allowed. Removing hair on Shabbat is always not allowed. Tweezing and so on. Similarly, cutting the fingernails is not allowed on Shabbat. This is the melachav goziz. It's actually one of the 39 melachot. Definitely not allowed. Now, removing nail polish on Shabbat, there are some people who have issues with this removing of nail polish on Shabbat, but really, according to halacha, there's no problem with removing the nail polish on Shabbat. You can even use nail polish remover. There's no issue with removing it at all. And therefore, if someone's nail polish becomes chipped or they otherwise need to remove it on Shabbat, they shouldn't hesitate to do that. It's perfectly fine. Can one apply, the last question I have on my list here is, can one apply makeup on Friday before Shabbat and then apply Shabbat makeup on top of that makeup the next day? This is a little bit of a complicated question. The question would be whether you're really accomplishing anything by doing that. The issue is, if by doing that you wouldn't be adding any color at all, then there wouldn't be any purpose in doing it. So obviously the assumption is that one who's doing it is adding color, and the Shabbat makeup is designed to last even longer than regular makeup. That's the whole concept. You put it on before Shabbat and it lasts through the rest of Shabbat. So I would be inclined to say that no, even if a person put on some makeup before Shabbat, if they want to enhance it in some way by adding the makeup, even if it's so-called Shabbat makeup, it's somewhat of a misleading term, because a Shabbat makeup is actually makeup that's intended to be put on before Shabbat, and the concept is that it lasts throughout Shabbat. That's perfectly fine. But for makeup that you're applying on Shabbat, there the only thing you're really allowed to use that creates color would be something made of powder. Just to conclude, I know that this is a subject which is very, very difficult for many women, and I'm very gratified and I feel very happy that women are asking these questions and doing their best to observe Shabbat correctly. It's very inspiring to me, because I know that this is no easy task in a culture and a society and a community where looks are valued very much, and the way people's appearance is valued very much, and people are very concerned about their appearance, which is natural and normal. So for women to put Shabbat first is really a great sacrifice, and demonstrates a really strong commitment to halacha, a commitment to Shabbat, a commitment to Hashem. And we can be assured that Hashem will bless us and reward us for all that we do to keep His mitzvot properly.